Hey, welcome to the AI Ninja podcast, where we explore the fascinating intersection of AI, entrepreneurship, transformative leadership. I'm your host, Ray. Today, I got a special guest. It's Jason Lamothe. He's the founder of JL Journey to Success. He's been a pivotal member of my AI Ninja Mastermind in his journey from traditional 9 to 5 job to becoming a successful online entrepreneur. I love hearing his journey. It's nothing short of inspiring. He's got over 30 years of experience across various fields, combines an extensive knowledge and passion to empower others to achieve financial independence, personal fulfillment, and he really kind of found that. He found his calling. He's still working through it, which I think is important to hear, right? Someone who's real, someone that's just like you, who's made tremendous progress over the last 6 months in this mastermind, and he's finding his way. And so I want you to join us as we dive into his story, Jason's story, as we explore the power of community, mentorship, and the innovative use of AI in transforming dreams into reality. And that's what this mastermind is all about, right? It's a sanctuary, an entrepreneurial sanctuary for people just like Jason, people just like you, who are looking for a place to surround yourself with other delusional entrepreneurs. I consider myself one, and we've got 125 at the time of this recording, entrepreneurs like Jason that are finding their way. So sit back and relax and enjoy this great conversation. We go down many areas and avenues as we explore entrepreneurship, AI, and how to transform your dreams into reality. Hope you enjoy it.
Yeah,
Jason, man, I'm so glad that you're here, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
yeah, this is awesome.
Man, I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the last 3 months. I don't know how long has it been. 3 months? It might have even been more, but
Yeah, I think
um,
it's been 6 months now because I think I
has it been six? I guess
started
you're
back
right.
in. Yeah,
Oh my God, I can't believe how the time is going.
yeah.
But I've really appreciated how you've been such a key member of this community, and I really appreciate that. And like I said, I really one of the things that as I started this AI Ninja, as and I've done a few masterminds in the past, and I always ended up having people become lifelong friends. I mean, of the six that I've done before, I still have connections and lifelong friends, and I feel like you're going to be one of those. And if I can be as presumptuous as that, I really do appreciate the value you've added to the community and where you're going on your entrepreneurial journey. So I just wanted to get that out of the way and say thank
Yeah,
you for
no, for
that.
sure. Like I think that's the one thing that's been so eye-opening about the whole community is just like I really thought it was going to be something different. Then I got in it and I was like, no, I think I can actually do life with these people. Like it, like actually be friends, right? Like after, like not just oh we'll be partners in business together, right? It's
Yeah.
like like it never felt like that since the first time I went in there and was begging for somebody to give me a hand with this understanding this GPT or something. I think it was Josh. And I'm like, that idea sounds really cool, but I'd like to do something similar. But, like, I don't want to steal your thunder. And he's like, take it, man. Just do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Really? And he's like, yeah, like, that's what we're in here for, man. Take it, use it, learn it. And I was like, everywhere else would be like, you got to pay me XYZ dollars if you want to use my intellectual property.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is like nothing I've ever been in before.
Yeah. I suppose, and I've received some criticism even from people online, or even people told me behind the scenes, like, well, you're selling stuff short, you're not charging enough, you're never going to make money doing this. And I don't know, maybe that's true, but I think the part of it is I'd rather play a long game and then try to, you know, I think there are ways that you can be extremely successful in entrepreneurship now, that the game has changed so much in the last 18 months that it's a whole new economy. It's a whole new playing field. I don't have any empirical data other than the fact of how many people are interacting with AI and people see the benefits, but it just feels different to me. And I've been doing this since 2010 and I've never felt anything like this. What about you? How long have you kind of been in this desire to, be an entrepreneur or do things on your own, make money online? Just tell me a little bit about your journey, how you got to this point.
Well, I mean, it did start probably in the early, because I'm old, right? I'm almost 50. So like I go back to when ClickFunnels was just starting out and they were doing like companies were starting to do the learn how to make your own website and we'll sell you the tools on how to create your own website. And I was like, oh, and then I can do my own drop shipping website. That's when drop shipping had just came out. So I want to say that's like a good 20 something years ago, if
Yeah,
not more, right?
you're right. I
Like,
mean, I got in on I I was one of the early adopter, not adopter, but purchaser of ClickFunnels. I kind of bought into it early on, and I even to the point where I was creating funnels for people. It seemed like I knew what I was doing because it was kind of a plug and to the maximum extent as a plug and play. You could create some pretty decent looking quote unquote websites that were just
Yeah.
funnels that looked really nice. And
Yeah. But that's where I kind of sort of got the itch because I was like, I went to school for commerce and business and accounting and all that stuff. And then I came out and I tried working in that field and I was working in it, like, but it just wasn't satisfying. And I think it was always that itch for, do your own business. But, like, back then, like the cost of entry, like you had to get a brick and mortar, there was no online. Like it
mhm,
was just starting, right? Like the internet was just starting to really ramp up. Like we still had AOL, like we were just coming out of dial up really at that point. Like we were having high speed phone lines like for internet access, right? So people were starting to connect more and go more to the old World Wide Web as it was called back then,
mhm,
like
right.
so really it was really in its infancy. So, I tried all the other things that you could be doing, right? Like I tried doing the let's sell this stuff, essential oils, or let's do the Tupperware stuff, or let's do this and try to supplement your income or supplement that, or, and then I kind of tripped over this, let's do a drop shipping website because this was the new crave everyone was talking about, like be your next, seller of stuff online. You don't have to be going door to door and having parties and all this other garbage that everyone was having to do in those time.
Right.
And I kind of got duped into it because it wasn't as easy as it was made out to be. Like it was,
Never
here you go,
is.
here's your thing, and see you later. We got your $1,500 or $2,000, whatever it was, I had to invest to get the course, at the time. And I was sitting there going, I don't understand anything about that. And then it was funny because it was like teaching you how to use ClickFunnels, right? And then it was funny because it was ClickFunnels that was contacting me saying, oh, we could have just did that for you anyway. We could show you these templates. We can do. I'm like, well, where were you guys before I dumped 2 grand onto these yahoos who knew nothing and just sold me on some,
Yeah.
pipe dream or whatever. And then at that point, it was like I was broke. I was like, no, I gotta go back to work. And that
Yeah.
was always the thing. It was always this cycle of I would try something, and if it didn't have enough of a return, go back to the old job.
Yeah.
So
That story that you said, I mean, and I would suggest, and we got 125 members and I've had the privilege to talk to everybody one on one. That story is so common to the vast majority of people in this community. Certainly, that's things like that have been part of my story. We've all plopped down money on things that we thought it seemed like it made sense, but it seems back then, particularly when you're thinking like 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, um, and ClickFunnels is a perfect example of that kind of old school copywriting that went back to the turn of the century of
mhm,
where people were selling snake oil the same. And you look at those
yep,
copywriting guys from the 20s and the 30s that people still follow.
yep,
ClickFunnels followed that model. Russell Brunson was a copywriter guy by trade. He was one of those guys that you know looked at those old copywriting things that worked from the 30s and he would handwrite them. And so that was
yep.
kind of his journey, and it bled over into ClickFunnels. And I think like where I'm going with this is that it suckered us all into a sense. And again, I'm not bashing Russell Brunson. I like
No,
him.
no, no,
I
of
still
course.
do like ClickFunnels. I've been a ClickFunnels guy for years just because I got into bed with him early on, and I don't recommend ClickFunnels to anybody because it can be so frustrating and
Yeah.
expensive. And but my point is that I think a lot of that compared to then, and again, I've done the same thing that you did. Um, I think it just feels completely different now compared to then. And I
Well, and
still,
and the problem that I had then was I didn't have the computer science background. I had the business background and I
Mhm.
had the knowledge of economics. I just didn't have the computer programming. And that was the problem back then is you had to have that foundational C++ kind of lingo to sort of be able to kind of put in, your like it wasn't like a template like we have now. They were starting to, but you still had to be able to kind of code it a little bit, right? Or
Yeah.
understand how to write it in to put in your button or how to put in your so that HTML coding or whatever was a little bit of an element that was a restriction, right? So I just didn't have that knowledge, and that's where I got stuck. And I was like, I'm spinning my wheels, and there's no one to reach out to. Like this place has ghosted me now. And then I've got ClickFunnels who's knocking down my door saying, we can teach you all how to do it for another 2000, like I was like, well, like I'm out now, so, but it was just kind of like doing that for many years but always trying to find the next, kind of opportunity to try to, spread my wings into my own thing, if you will, was always my challenge. And like I said, the barrier over the years has always been startup costs and finding a market and finding something, a product, a service, a something that everyone wanted in high demand and that, you could get it out there too, right? And that was always the problem was like, if you didn't have a big social media following or if you like even back then, right? Like, the starting of Facebook and the starting of, those social media platforms were still in the infancy as well. Like, because now you're going back to the later 2010s where like Facebook is starting to take off now and people are starting to be in there, right?
Yeah, and
And
the people who got in early. The Facebook ads were so cheap and so
yeah,
economical,
but even
and
just developing your network, right? Whereas
right.
before, if you were a salesperson making cold calls, you're opening a phone book, like that's how old I am. You had a phone book and you were just randomly either calling people or soliciting businesses to try to go in there and, get them to do something with you. Whereas now you could just be, on their social media. If they were friends, you could friend them, you could have a group, you could do all kinds of
Mhm.
stuff today that you couldn't do back then, right? And so it wasn't until middle of last year, 2023, like March, like beginning of like 2023, when like this whole upsell of, courses and MRR came out and it was right in your face on TikTok and it was right on your face and, about everything. And I was like, and then it was like, the cost is so like, I mean, it's still an investment, but it wasn't like break your bank investment, right? Like
Yeah,
500
wasn't like
bucks compared to two
twenty five
grand
hundred or
20 years
3,000.
ago.
Yeah,
Well, 2020 years ago was like spending 5 grand today. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like when you think about it almost, right? Like $500 today, that's like, paying 50 bucks 20 years
hmm
ago, right? So, to get in to learn that technique and learn the skills and learn like even a basic level education, I was like, and I don't have to spend months and months to, I was like, this is something I could look into. And, and you given the product, I was like, wow, that's, you get something to practice on. I was like, oh, this is like a completely like this is like 180 from the what I did before, and then I started trying to do it. And then it was like, but by the time I got in, it was kind of like just because I was like hesitant, right? I had such bad taste from so many past things that I was like, I'm gonna wait. I want to see, I'm waiting for the bubble to burst, right? So like, May,
yeah,
June, July is coming, August. I'm like, I'm still hearing people are like making these people that I was watching, like that were, I'm just starting out, like the Megs and all these people that were like,
mhm,
just starting. I was like, and then all of a sudden, she's making 40 grand a week. I'm like, okay, I got to get in on this now. Like, this
yeah,
is crazy. Like, if people are making money like crazy. And but then by then it was like the kind of the coasting down, right? Like
all right,
the scamminess of everyone kind of pumping out income claims and this and that. And it was just like I really enjoyed the course and I really enjoyed the knowledge, but it was just the selling. It was getting like, wow, like this is garbage out here right now. People are just like it just was terrible. And it left a bad taste. And I was just like, I don't know. And I've got this course now and it's not really moving. And like, because I'm not actively promoting it like everyone else was. I didn't want to be the next, because there's just so much noise, right? You had 30,000 people in that community all saying the same thing. Like,
hmm
I was like, I
yeah.
need to venture.
I got the course kind of the same thing. Of course, I left. I'd been doing online entrepreneurship since 2010, and I left the airline industry as a pilot in the beginning of 23 and started dabbling in ChatGPT, and then had this kind of transformation thinking, oh my God, kind of came across the roadmap at the same time. And I was excited initially, but then, like I said, right after I got it and I liked the course, and it opened up my eyes to get on TikTok. And again, I think I told you I went into it with a little bit of arrogance, thinking, "Oh, I've been doing this since 2010. I mean, what can these yahoos teach me?" And I'm like, "Oh, I kind of suck at branding. I kind of suck at email marketing,
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I was like, "Oh, and I'm maybe I should get on TikTok." And so I started, and then luckily I did. I mean, that's why you and I are talking today, because I
Yep.
took those steps. But you're right. I remember then at the time I was like, and I did like the course and I believed in it. And then I instantly did not like how some of these people, so that was April, May of a year ago, and I was like, it just feels gross, and I just stayed
Yeah.
away from it. I'm kind of glad I did. I mean, it is kind of frustrating thinking that you could have been like a Meg if you got in just a few weeks earlier, and you could have, you know what I mean, and rode that wave. But that's how volatile it kind of is. I mean, literally, Meg was kind of starting about the same time you and I were seeing it, but
Yeah.
she was just a few weeks ahead of us, and she kind of rode it, and she was authentic enough, I think, in her, and I think she was just equally as shocked as what she was making, and
Yeah.
good for her. But you're right, there's only a handful that kind of rode that wave. But at the same time, what's led to, I think, you know what we're trying to create and what we're trying to do, I think we take those lessons. I still think there's a hell of an opportunity for people to embrace in an authentic way, particularly the advent. I think, honestly, I think that a lot of people aren't doing, but what we're doing is we've kind of learned over the last 12 months how powerful in the finesse of this and robust embracing this AI is,
Well,
and
and
how.
that was kind of the turning point for me. That's what switched it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because once I got to realize I was stuck, because I'm like, I bought this course. I wasn't upset about the 497 that was out of my pocket because the knowledge I got from it was exponential, right? It just saved me months and months of Googling and
Right.
researching and
Mm-hmm.
all that other stuff to learn what is a funnel, how do I build a funnel, how do I deal with Stan and Stripe and all that kind of other garbage that goes along with online businesses and stuff, like I was like, that's great. It gave me all that basic knowledge that I didn't go to school for. So I got it, right? But what I was lost was looking for where can I take what I've learned because like how do I develop that niche? Like the course talks about, you need to find a niche and you need to niche down and you need to start developing your customer avatars, who you want to market to. And I was like, but what niche do I want to do? Like I have so many varied interests that like, do I want to talk about finance? Do I want to talk about accounting? Do I want to talk about business? Do I want to talk about fly fishing or fishing, bass? Do I want to do home? I'm like, I've got too many varied interests, but none of them that I could see quantifying like into something that I could be selling to somebody, right? Like that I can convert into a unit of sale. And I was like, and that's where my rubber wasn't meeting the road. And then I kind of tripped over your content and you're like, you know, I'm showing people how to leverage AI. And I was like, well, I've used AI and all that I already asked it a simple question and it gave me a simple answer, which was, draw me a picture and it drew me a picture, but it wasn't the picture I wanted. Right. And I was like,
Yeah.
what is this guy talking about? There's no way, like, I know AI is smart, but it's smart if you tell it to probably code something or whatever. And then you were showing me your prompts and I was like, I didn't know it could do that. I didn't know it could do this. I didn't know I could use it for figuring out a niche and trying out different niches. If I didn't want just that one, I could try 10 and I could research it within fractions of of an hour, if you will, and flesh out an idea for a niche and who to market to and average. I was like, this is impossible what it would take. Like it's taken me all this months, like from when I bought the course in October to December to realize I still didn't even have a niche, like a real niche. I thought a niche was, oh, I'm in the health and wealth. You know what I
Right.
mean? I
Right.
thought that the wealth niche is what I was in. And people were like, well, no, you're selling a course. That's not the wealth niche. Like it's a subtopic of categories and there's all kinds of niches under each one. I was like, see, that's how dumb I was. I didn't even know that it was even more
Yeah.
down, right? And that's the thing. It was just like I was like, oh my God, like it was just, and then watching, and then I bought into the GPTs, and then we were talking about, you're like, I want to go somewhere else with this. I want to create a whole community, and I was like, yeah, like rah rah, I'm in. Like I want to know more. I want to be on the ground level. I don't want to wait. I didn't want to wait like I did for the roadmap, right? I
Right.
wanted to be on the ground level of something that I saw was changing people, like even in the community. Like I was watching it like overnight, like even myself, like it was, yeah, it's an uphill learning curve, but it accelerated so many things for me and my idea processes and the way that I could venture into thinking about something. I could get it to flesh it out with so quick with the AI or like in general. Like I was just like, man, this is like such a time saver. Like
Well, it means a lot that you said that, because it validates kind of what, like I said, I didn't have a plan to be where we're at right now back a year ago. It kind
no.
of organically happened when I met people like you, and you were I mean, it just kind of happened organically, in a sense. It wasn't like a detailed plan to create this community. It just seemed natural, particularly as I started saying, well, okay, and I'm started finding people like yourself and who got it, and you're one of the guys that gets it, and I mean that understands where I'm coming from, and again, we have a whole community of people that kind of get it and we see it. And I still don't quite understand why more people don't see it. And I don't, and maybe because sometimes to the point you're thinking, well, am I really
But I
on
think
this?
it took you to kind of point it out where we were like, we were all thinking the same thing. We're like, this buying a course to sell a course isn't sustainable business. It's not. At the end of
Mhm.
the day, you're going to run out of people to sell the roadmap to at some point, give or take.
Mhm.
Like in general, like it could be recycled. I can buy it and then I can give it to my kids and they can learn the knowledge out of it. But that doesn't mean I'm going to sell it to them. I'm just going to give it to them to learn, right? Like,
Yeah.
so eventually there's a point where that course, even with the upgrades, it's kind of going to peter down to a point, right? Like you're going to
Mhm.
have a point where, if there's a million people selling it, it's you're competing in a very loud space already at 30,000. You can imagine if a million people own that product and are trying to do it. And that's, I think, where everyone was like, this is a good cash play. It'll, put money in your pocket temporarily if you can get it to move. But realistically, long term, where it's at is the community. And that's what we were all missing, was somewhere to hang our shingle on and say, I'm here and I want to help others who are lost or struggling to realize that you can accelerate these processes that you're stuck in trying to identify a business, trying to identify a niche or a group or an avatar or something so much faster with the advent of AI technology today. And we're using it responsibly. We're not
Right.
just, oh, whatever it puts out is what I'm going to copy and paste it. Like, you know what I mean? Like we were like, no, you learn how to use it, properly and, take it and then modify it to yourself, make it sound like yourself, play around with it, expand it, and use it as a brainstorming tool to cut down that 2 to 3 months it would have taken you to
Oh,
get that idea fleshed out and do it in an hour or a week, and then realize this is garbage and start over
start over.
instead of,
And you haven't
oh, what do
wasted.
I do after I wasted 3 months?
Right, and money, and
And
that's
money.
I don't,
Yeah,
in to your point, at worst case you just wasted an hour, but it really wasn't even
exactly.
a waste because number one, you got that idea fleshed out and it realized, okay, I need to move on to something else, or I need
Yeah.
to change this, add this, and pivot this and reshape this idea. And I don't know about you, I can't remember if I've talked to you about this, but you've heard me talk about how, and there seems to be a preponderance for whatever people in our community that have these hyperactive brains, or, and I hate putting labels and saying, but my kids who seem to know everything about ADHD, I guess somehow I know, but they say, like, Dad, you're totally
Everyone's got a
ADHD.
label today.
Yeah,
So,
right, exactly. So I don't like to label myself. I mean, I am who I am, but I have struggled. My mind has been my biggest enemy for most of my life. I mean, whether I can't shut my brain off. And it's not like, and I don't know if you've ever noticed, like when I'm talking and I'll pause and it'll take me a while. Like I noticed that when I was an flight instructor years ago, when I was in the Marine Corps, I was teaching students how to fly. And at the end of, as they get near graduation, they would do, people do imitations of their instructors. And I don't know if you've ever had somebody like imitate you in
yeah,
front, and it's
yeah,
eye opening when somebody,
yeah,
because you're like, oh shit, I do that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And so everybody that imitated me, they'd be sitting there talking, and then they'd have this like 5 second pregnant pause, and that's my monkey brain trying to get
Yeah.
the words out. And so it's always been a struggle. I've always had to force my way through things. Like even when I went through flight school, I really had to brute force it. And I don't know if, I'm curious if your brain is the same way, but ever since I started using this, it has been the best. I feel like these last 18 months have been the biggest relief, productivity, something, clarity, the best medicine that I could have had. So I'm
Yeah.
curious about if you've had a similar experience.
Well, and for me, like, I think the difference for us is that we grew up in a time where there was no label for it. It was just
Mhm.
toughen up, go stand in front of that crowd. You're just being nervous. It's not
Yeah, quit.
anxiety. There's
Yeah,
no
right.
such thing as
Hmm.
anxiety. There was no such thing as ADHD. You were just hyper. You were just a little
Hmm.
antsy, right? So I think for today, like for me, the opposite is the case. So like my brain races like constantly. It's
Hmm.
always overthinking everything, and I'm 2 to 3 steps ahead, and sometimes I'm trying to just race to get it out. But sometimes like it'll race too far ahead, and then I'm like stuck, right? So it's funny because like I'll watch you, and I'll that's why I started getting into your lives, because when you would pause, I would that's the
Yeah,
answer.
I
You're looking,
love it, man.
it's like this is
You're
what you
such
want to
a,
say, right?
that's
Click.
right. You're
This is
such a
what you
great
want.
assistant.
Click. Right. And that's just how my brain works. Like I'm already answering your, like I'm already following your train and I'm answering it right away because I can see the,
Yeah. You can see
eh,
I'm
and this
struggling.
is what he wants to say. Click and it's send.
Yeah, I love it. I was going to say that I love the assists, and you get me 100%. You know exactly what my brain is thinking. Yeah, I
But
love
where
it.
I was stuck was the, like my brain can run quickly with something if I'm given a direction for it. And that's where I found the AI gave me that, like point the spear at something, like get me my brain a focus to something. Instead of having it thinking about 10,000 things, it would narrow that scope
Yeah,
to a very, very finite thing. And then I could really delve into it and go, oh, okay. So then do this for me, GPT, or do this for me, Gemini, or whatever I was using, and just pick and pick and pick and say, I don't like that. Try this. I don't like that. Try that. Can we expand this or can we add that? Like it was just, that's how my brain worked, right? But I
right.
needed to have that partner that was giving me the
Yeah,
idea, and then I could go. That's the saying. Like it was when you talk, you give me the idea and then I go and I spit it out,
I love it.
right? And that's just how my brain works. It's just this constant verbal diarrhea sometimes when I've got an idea. And the wife's like, "You're getting excited. Calm down. You're starting to talk loud." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Well,
but I got to get it out. I just got
that's
to
what's
get
so
it out."
that's what's so great about these large language models, because like you said, you can vomit these things out to it in no particular order, and somehow it gets it. And so, and like, it feels like these blockages or these dams are freed when I do that. And that's what I mean about how it's been the best medicine. To your extent, I can totally
Yeah.
relate with what you're saying. It's a great, perfect assistant that basically knows everything, practically everything, but and
Well, it knows what it knows, right?
it knows
And
what it
we know the
knows.
other side of it, right?
Right. Exactly. And I love it. What okay, so we've made it to this point. You're here. You've kind of had it's been fun. I've been kind of morphing and pivoting and learning the same with you along the way these last 6 months. I see um a different Jason than I saw 6 months ago in a positive sense. You're still trying to figure it out, like almost all of us are, but you've
Yep.
made tremendous strides, I think, from at least where when we had our first initial call to where now. Where are you at in your entrepreneurial journey? You have a brand name called JL Journey to Success. What does it look like? Well, let me say that. What When you originally came up with that name, JL Journey to
Journey to
Success,
success.
what was the original idea? Where is it now, and where do you think it's going?
Well, at the time, it was just the idea was I'm going on a journey that's away from my job, right? So I wanted to have some success in something, and I wanted to kind of take people on that journey and see what I saw with Meg, right? I saw her fumbling in the beginning and
Yeah,
trying to do this, and then she found that product and she found that thing, and it kind of took off, right? Where I kind of wanted something similar, but I wanted to try to figure out what I could bring to the table with my years of experience and whatnot that was different than Meg, right? Like, and the thing I think where I was lost when I first came in, I'm less lost than I was, but I think because I'm starting to kind of get like what it took me was getting that knowledge of how to interact with the AI properly to realize what it could do, as well as being around the people in the community who are doing other things that are above my head, like Alan with the SEO. Like I never even realized there was that much behind a
I know,
website,
right? Yeah,
like just that kind of like intensity of stuff that goes on for web pages and funnels. And then there was like automations, and then there was learning prompting better, and business acumen and image generation, like all these things that I was like, wow. And I've been spending so much time just trying to sponge it in, that I think where I was trying to figure out where I started was that, oh, I'll just be a roadmap seller, but I need better tools to do it. And I think what it got me to realize is that I don't need the crutch of the roadmap. What I need now, and what it's opened my brain is that I think it's opened up the idea that I don't want to just be selling products. I want to be helping people learn
Hmm.
how to leverage this stuff and how to use this so that even, a person like me who went to school, sure, for business and economics, and, I drive a city bus for the city for a living, right? Like I just 180'd my careers over the years, right? Like that anybody can do this. You don't have to be a computer science programmer. Like you can get in, learn these skills and these tools and use them to your advantage for whatever it is that you want.
Whatever it is
I
you
think
want. Yeah.
that's the,
Hmm.
whether you're a brick and mortar business or you're an individual who wants to start up a crocheting, you know, thing on TikTok, or you want to do whatever it is, like there's just such a big avenue, but people are not aware that how to leverage these tools properly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's opened my mind to, is that I want to be a teacher or somebody who's able to hold your hand and guide you through what I've learned. And yeah, I'm not an expert in anything as of now, but I'm a lot further ahead than most people are today, right? And that's where I wanted to that's what's been opening my brain. And I've got some other things that are kind of rattling around how I want to, because
I love that. And I love hearing that. And I know you're not, I guess that's part of the growth that I've seen on your journey and getting to know you. And I love that you're kind of open to figuring this out. And the more that I see it, and again, I don't say this lightly because I see things, I have this ability to kind of, and you need that. And I think that's the advantage of having community. People see things that you don't see because you're in it. And sometimes you can't see the old adage forest through the trees. But
Mhm.
like you said, you're one of the few people that I've met along this journey that seem to get it at that level. And I just, and hearing you say that really for the first time, that that's where you're at right now, it makes perfect sense for me that yes, you are playing into your strength. I think that is your strength, is to be a teacher, to be a coach, to be something. And again, the last thing anybody in the world needs is another consultant or coach, maybe, but at the same time, you're approaching it with a level of authenticity and that's what I appreciate about you, is that you do have a level of authenticity and transparency and vulnerability, which are great. I think that is the currency that is most needed and the most valuable at this point. And it just feels like at some point, yeah, it's just the natural progression. It's only a matter of time where you're going to see, I think, tremendous success. I feel that. That's how I see it. And again, what do I know? I'm not a sage or a prophet, but I do think I have a pretty strong intuition when I see things, and I don't know. It really makes me happy to see that this is the progression that you've kind of fleshed out over the last 6 months. I wish it was get rich quick and we were all making $40,000 a month, but to me, there's no. It's written that eventually you're going to be making something like that because you're going to find a community that people that resonate with you on it. That's how I
I
see
already
it.
have. That's the difference, right? Is I have found a community that I do
Right.
resonate with, because we're all kind of in the same boat where we're all wanting to help, right?
Yeah.
And at the same token, we're not all in here for cookies and milk either. You know what I mean? We're all in it to try to still get some financial um, help from it, in terms that we can
Sure.
make a business by helping people as we go. But we're not sitting there like other communities I've been in, where every time you got a problem, you got to hand out your credit card before they'll give you the answer.
Yeah.
And that
100%.
was the big eye opener for me with this community, was that it was never, I can help you, but you're gonna have to you have to pony up the bucks first before I can help you do anything more, right? And I think that's where it opened my mind, and I go, I can even do my own community that's parallel to this community and funnel people from mine to here or back and forth, and use the leveraging of the AI to get that knowledge, come back to me to be handheld even further. Like, because I've got two communities. I've got my own community of people
Mhm.
that kind of found me through whatever my social media was that they resonated with, right? The Gen X, bald head, big loud voice, whatever,
Right.
whatever it is that attracted you to me, means that I can then funnel you to say, look, you're lacking in this, and I have a great tool for you. It's here. Or you know what? And once you learn that, I'm still here, right? Like I'm still here to hold your hand. I'm still here. Not thanks for the MRR sale, and hope you make it and hope you figure it out, right?
Right.
Like, and I think that's the difference with everyone in here, is we all have our own communities that we're trying to grow, but we're using this as the bridge, right? Between
Yeah,
my
I love
community.
yeah, and I love how you get that because that And I said that from day one. That is the kind of foundational culture that I want people to understand is that even if you take someone like yourself or a Josh or very similar to what I'm trying to do, it doesn't matter. I'm a big proponent of like, look, there you don't need, and I don't need 10,000 people buying my products. I just need a few hundred to 500 to 1,000,
Right.
and my whole life is different. And it's the same with you. And there are people that are going to resonate with the ball headed goatee guy from Canada. And there's going to be some
Yep.
people that are going to resonate with the ball cap wearing dad bod, 56-year-old from Kansas, right? It
Yep.
doesn't matter, right? People are going to find, you're going to, and that's what I think the difference is. And I'm trying to adhere is like, I don't want to go chase. I want to attract. And I think that is the difference in this day and age. If you're going to be successful in this, is number one, you've got to share your stuff. It doesn't matter. The stuff is changing so much. It's not about your intellectual property.
No.
It's about how you can have all the intellectual property. It's just like I said, having the pictures on the wall and the nice couch and the 60-inch screen TV. And it's like, man, I really like hanging out at Ray's place because he has got a six. But then that only lasts for so long. Once I got you in the room, what really the magic happens is the memories we make inside that room.
Yep.
And that's what I want people to experience. And for me, already with the 6 months that kind of all of us have been together, I've had numerous occasions where that have been public on the mastermind, and there have been behind the scenes where it's just been a one-on-one conversation where people have said, I wouldn't be here or I wouldn't be where I was at if it wasn't for this community. That tells me we're on to something. And you've been a part of some of the public ones where people were, I don't belong here, and we're all like, shut the hell up, and you're loved and you belong here.
Yep.
And I've seen them
We just
grow.
had one
And
on Saturday.
yeah, and one on
We just
Saturday
had one
with
like, and that's what I mean. And that was the beauty of it, right? We were able to flesh out something that somebody was like, I got to make this perfect. It has to be this perfect
mm-hmm.
product. And otherwise I can never release it. And we're all like, why? Release it and then do a 2.0. And he's like, oh, I never thought about that way.
Really,
Right.
it's like, I
Or
don't know
the
if anybody.
approach, right?
Yeah, I remember when he said, I don't know if anybody would buy it. And there are like three
Yeah.
people like, what?
Yeah,
I would,
exactly.
I would be your first
But it was
customer.
that different, like it's getting you out of your own way, right? And that's what I found
Yeah.
was with a lot of the people in the community. But like even in terms of the structure, right? Is that as much as we're all kind of trying to build our own communities, I'll never be an SEO expert.
No,
I'll never be an automation expert. I'll
right.
never be a prompt engineer expert. I'll be, decent prompter and I'll be knowledgeable about SEO and the impact that it has to have. But now I have another quill in my feather, you know what I mean? In my back to go, oh, you need this level of,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you don't want to just make your TikToks a little better and, whatever. And here you can read the roadmap and you can go and learn some of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, but you need more than that, right? Like you want something like a bigger idea or you're already further along. You need more skills and tools than have another pair like a buddy community that's has all that stuff, right?
Yeah,
So that's the
100%.
beauty of it is that I don't have to have all the answers. I don't have to have everything there in my own community. I can flesh it out and mirror the two. And that's what I think was the biggest eye opener for me was that like, yeah, I think I can do something different and but still similar, and not be like I feel like I'm competing against Ray's AI Ninja or Josh's or Susie's or whoever, right? Like,
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's like
no,
there's so much value in, and that's why it's called a mastermind, because in the true Napoleon Hill sense, it's like, well, something magical happens, and I don't even, when you get two or more people together that are trying to accomplish similar things. And we're all trying to gain time and economic freedom. There's nothing to be ashamed about that, embarrassed, because that gives us options for our life. And those options, leads to a whole host of things. More time with the kid, the stuff that we're all wanting, more
yeah,
time with the family, more, the ability to maybe work from, the beach in Maui and still do, it doesn't,
yeah.
yeah, those are all great. But at the end of the day, I do think it does boil down to, was I here and did I make a difference? And it doesn't have to be grandiose, but just the fact that maybe I helped this person finally see themselves as an entrepreneur and they do see something, and maybe they don't get generational wealth, but maybe they get an extra 5 grand a month and that's all they were wanting. That makes me happy, and
But in the past, I felt the opposite is true from other communities that I tried to be in, or it was that like, you can't compete with me. You have
Right.
to stay
Mhm.
subservient to my brand or my idea. You can only go so far with my idea before I own the rights to that idea, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I found that that was what the difference of the eye opener for me was, is that it wasn't like I'm gatekeeping the answer so that people will keep buying from me, but they'll never buy from you because I'm the only one who has the answer.
Yeah. I just think it's a
That was the difference where I was like, that's where the value in this community has been so far above and beyond other ones that I've been in. Like I said, with that incident with Josh, where he's like, take my prompt, man. I don't care. Like, and
yeah.
I'm like, you don't? He's like, no, I'll make another one. Like, like we're
Yeah.
all here. And then like I did it and I turned it around and I think he was helping somebody else. And I'm like, I'd like to throw my hat in it because I never had really played with it, and then this guy was trying to do something with roofing or whatever. And he was like, Josh is like, well, maybe if you try this. And he's like, well, I've been trying to do that. And I kind of took the two of them and I smashed it together. And I said, here, what do you think of this? And the guy's like, actually, that works great. Perfect. And I'm like, good, keep it. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like funny, like, and that's that interaction that I never would have got somewhere else. Right. Like I never
No.
would have had the opportunity to see behind the curtain. It would have been just I'll figure it out and I'll get back to you with the answer when I'm and then give me the $20 and then I'll give it to you after. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. I know I got some
that was the
friends.
difference for
Yeah,
me.
I that means a lot to me because that's what I intentionally wanted to have happen from the beginning. And it's like I never when I first released the custom GPTs and said, here's everything and go you can sell them as is or make them
Yeah,
better. And there was a ton of people in the beginning when the GPTs was hot and new. And again, it's kind of you don't really whatever. But at the time it was, it gave me a nice source of income. I said, yeah, I'm giving it away. And I'm like, well, how do you protect it? And I'm like, stop worrying about that
yeah,
because it's not about the IP. It's about the experience that you get to allow these people, because everybody that I gave the custom GPTs to, they made them better. I mean, a lot of them became members of this community.
yeah.
Is there are so many people that bought those GPTs from me that became founding members. So
Mhm.
it served its
And they're
purpose.
using them in their
And
communities.
they're using them in their community. And there's
And they're also using the ones that they added to those
they
ones
added and
in
they
the
made him
community.
there's I can think of a half a dozen people who took my custom GPTs. They tweaked them and made them their own and made them better
Yep,
for their business. And I'm
yep,
like, that just makes me happy as a pig in mud. Man. I was like, that's great.
yep.
And you're right. There is a handful of people that just like,
Yeah,
oh, you gotta I'm like, dude, it's not gonna last. We're not gonna be talking about custom GPTs in 12 months. So
yeah,
let's just support each other. Let's share, give your best stuff away. Bob Berg's the go giver, which I recommend for so many people. Kind of he's one of those kind of, your buckets get filled if you try to directly fill your three or four Maslow hierarchical buckets to think about you, you'll never get them full ever. And
yeah.
but if I put a lot of energy in trying to help you fill yours, somehow my buckets are overflowing. I mean, that's biblical in nature. I mean, that's the way the universe works, and so we might as well embrace that. And I never understood this idea as like, well, there's only a finite slices of pie. And I'm like, man, bullshit. We used to make more pie because there's plenty of ingredients to make more pie. There's not a shortage of money in this world.
No.
In in and that's the frustrating aspect of there's so much of it. Why can't more of it flow my way? But I think it is wrapped around what you.
That's those 100 rich people that hold all the money and they don't
That's
want to
a
give it
huge part
out.
of it. That's
That's
exactly
the
right.
problem. We got to sell to them because they're the ones
That's
who are holding all
right.
the cards, right?
Yeah, you're right. There is that problem, um, uh, but at the same time, it's like, how do you get more of that? Or what is there? Even despite the 100 fat cats that are kind of holding 80% of it, still, even if there's 20% that's in there, that's still a lot of money,
Yep.
And it's like, how do you? And I don't think you can chase it. I honestly don't think you can chase it.
Well,
You you
isn't it
have to have
Hannah
it
that
attract
says it
you,
all the time?
huh?
I think it's Hannah from the Roadmap who says it all the time. She's like, if you try to chase money, it'll run away from you. But if,
Exactly.
like the more you chase money, the more it will run away from you. So if you're constantly not willing to help people, they see it and they know that you're being desperate when you're trying to, I'll
Oh
give
yeah.
it to you, but it's all, I just need that XYZ $10 or 100, you know what I mean? And I mean, yeah, we all need to live, we all need to eat. You can't give yourself to poor, like into, to bankruptcy. But at the end of the day, there is something to be said about some people are in it for the greed, and some people are in it for the actual help and the community and the ability to, get people moving along without trying to like take their last $10 out of their pocket, right?
Yeah, and goddamn, it's so hard though. I fall
Yeah.
victim to it every day, and if and I can tell you though, even in my 56 years, but even let's just take it shorter to the time where I was officially started an LLC in 2010, and I've done things since. Every time that I got a little panicky or tried to, I got to do this, and I'm just got to grip the wheel tighter, it's never worked out. Every time that I just got into the flow and wasn't thinking about it and just focused on adding value to somebody else, every single time. Uh, I, it's one of those, I don't know if you read this, and I can't remember where I read it. It's one of those paradoxes where, and I can't remember, it's some sales book. Anyway, it doesn't matter who it is, but in this, it's a kind of a very popular sales book. And, and they talk a little bit about it in the Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art. He kind of alludes to it a little bit too there. It's like the more that it's like let's just take a salesman for example, and I can't remember the example they gave is like every salesman has to do a certain amount of activities to sell, and whether it's cold calling, networking, a whole list. You got to do
Yeah.
all those things. You talk to almost every successful salesman, and they get the big deal and they get this or that. They never the big deal that really pivoted their business or changed life. They never got it from directly from the cold call, directly from the Facebook ad, directly from this. But they did those by doing those things, it opened up something else. And so
Yeah.
it's weird how almost every significant life changing sales or whatever happened not from the direct efforts that they were doing, but they had to do those direct efforts of doing to attract that. Does that make sense?
Right.
And if I look back at my leadership consulting business, is the same thing. The ones where I got, like the 1 year 6 figure deal. Like, I mean, I had a 12-month contract that was $100,000. That was my biggest consulting that I got. That did not come to me through any outreach on LinkedIn, any Facebook ad, it came through a serendipitous meeting where they had me speak because some third person recommended me, right? and it
Yeah.
and it led to me giving a presentation at this organization at their annual event, which led to me going to dinner with the CEO, which led to him going, God, I'd really like you to coach me.
Yep.
So I didn't do any hard sell to him, no cold calling. He didn't know me, right?
Yep. And
And I
that's the
can
same here. I mean, realistically, we all came in with the same idea where you were just like, I have an idea or I have this product and I want to show somebody. But it wasn't like, oh, it's $10,000 buy-in to figure out how to use ChatGPT or these custom GPTs. It was a small buy-in that opened up a window for everyone to go in. And then from there, it created this big community
mm,
of this thing. So it turned your $100 or $200 investment that everyone paid in, for the whatever it was, if it was $497 that you had to pay to get in, whatever back then, it was that small little incremental buy-in created this giant community.
mhm.
You could have just taken the money and said, thanks, guys,
Yeah, you're
you
right.
know, and it turned into this great thing that was tenfold what it was to begin with, which was here's how to learn how to use ChatGPT at the time, right?
Well, and
But
it's exciting that you say that because I feel like we barely scratched the surface of what could happen from the relationships that are being formed in here and the opportunity. I mean that with the deepest sincerity.
but even the people it's attracted.
Yeah,
That's what I mean is that
exactly.
that little you thought 497 was just going to get, a bunch
Oh
of
yeah.
people and then it would be a small community of a bunch of lost people like in the roadmap, right? A bunch of noobs running around going, I don't know, how do I do this, Ray? How do I do that? But it turned into actually attracting people who had specialties that we could then change this whole community to actually point it into a direction, whether it's just for small business, just for big business. There's all kinds of these things that could happen, and individual businesses because people are partnering up in between,
Yeah.
inside the community, doing other things outside of the community. Like it's really been a huge hub of a whole bunch of activity of entrepreneurs
That I
coming
couldn't have
together.
seen. I had no idea when I opened this up that
Oh,
that would happen. And that and I suppose if I look back to all the ventures that I've been involved in, the one that have been meaningful, they've all kind of happened that way. That you
yeah,
followed a nudging, that you followed a hunch, an intuition, a voice, something. And it wasn't me sitting. I think that's the myth I think about all of this and in life is that, oh, you sit down and and you buy all these books and like, here's how you lay your plan and blah, 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 and do this and do that. All that's bullshit. I
yeah.
think maybe you can, maybe it's not all bullshit. Maybe that's a little harsh because you can get, and maybe by going through some of those things or latching onto this guy's podcast for a little bit and following this book, and it does little sparks and intuitions and things. And then you finally just go in this direction and you go in that direction. But for 6 months, you were thinking you're going this way and
Yeah.
just by like an accident or a nudge that just happened, like, oh, I'm going to go this way for 5 seconds, and it leads to something. That's the thing that just amazes me about how the universe works. And
For me, it was the one thing that was slightly different was that I had been in other ones where it was like, be part of my mastermind and I'm going to show you how to do this, XYZ. And everyone who went into that was waiting for the Ray of that group to tell them what they had to do. It wasn't like they were coming in and going, let's challenge so and so with what he's saying. No, I don't know nothing. You're the guru. We bow down to whatever you say is the word of God, right? Like this is how I have to grow my social media. Oh, okay, this is what I got to do. Like everyone was in there who wasn't like and had no real entrepreneurial like strength or background or experience. Like they were just everyone was a bunch of lost puppies looking for the answer. And
yeah,
that person was the only one they could go to get the answer. Nobody else in the community could give it. Right.
right,
And that was the difference. Whereas this one, it's not dependent on Ray, AI
no,
Ninja.
and I
It's
don't want it to
the
be.
community that's
Mm-hmm.
there. That's what's been so exponentially great is that I don't have to go to you if I've got a problem. I can go to
Mm-hmm.
anybody in that founding members and say, Josh, I need a hand with that prompt, man. I don't know what's going on. Hey, Mario, I need help with an automation or Crystal, you know what I mean? Or can you help me with my web page or Jason type? The list goes on and on and on of all these people who have so many specialty backgrounds in this space
Yeah, it's
that
crazy.
it's not like they're all sitting there going, hey, Ray, how do we do
Yeah.
this?
And I would be
Like
extremely
that was,
uncomfortable.
that's
Yeah,
the.
I would be extremely uncomfortable if it was that way. I couldn't handle that pressure. It would,
No,
and
which is not enough hours in a
I
day.
don't have it. I don't have the capacity, number
No.
one, and I don't have and I'm only smart in a couple of things. And like I talk to Alan and I feel like an idiot, and I'm glad he's there because he can answer and help me and other people with SEO and website. I feel, fortunate that I have Crystal and Mario. And I mean, I'd love to know more about automation, but it's not my strength. And, I glaze over when I start seeing all the arrows and the squares and the circles. And I'm like, "Ah," you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I know that's not my strength, but
Yeah.
my strength is mindset. My strength is leadership. My strength is the prompting, and I'll stay there. And and I don't know. I feel like I can reach if somebody gets stuck, I know I can say, well, you know what? Jason was just there a month ago. Let me go send you to him. I like the way he teach. That's how I feel. And I see people get stuck and I'll see it in a DM and I'll be out driving around. Said I'll get to it in a minute, and then I get home and it's already taken care of. Somebody in the community, and they didn't get paid to do that. No one made any extra money off of it, And it's a
No, but that's
magical
been, I
thing
think,
for
the
me.
biggest thing that people haven't seen, right? And that
Yeah,
we've all seen now is that it didn't have to, everyone could come in and hang their shingle, but they weren't waiting for that one guru or the one mastermind leader
yeah,
to lead you through through the valley of the unknown, right? Like everyone was there and willing to pick up where the other one was weak, the other one was strong, right? And that's what I think has made a huge difference in this community is that,
yeah.
you know,
And I think I would like to think that piece of the interwebs marketing saga is dead or at least dying. we've all been there. I've been in those communities where, God, it'd be great if I could just talk with Russell Brunson. Oh, it'd be great if I could talk with, Ty Lopez. It'd be great if I could talk to, whoever, but you can't without a huge price. And
Yep.
then it just all feels slick. It feels a little phony. It feels like I hate fake motivation. I hate people that get on stage and let's start clapping our hands and jumping up and down. I don't got time for that bullshit. I just want to do
But
life
not
with
everybody
people.
can be Tony Robbins. Not
Exactly.
everybody can be Gary Vee. Like
Right.
they are who they are because that's who they are.
Right.
But they surround themselves with experts and people because they can't
Smarts.
answer every DM. They can't have the answer. Like even Gary Vee, when you watch him and he talks about, there's a reason why we do this Instagram thing because we figured it out by trying it. People gave me ideas and we tried it a different way. So that's why I do a carousel and then I do this and I do that. It's like that's not how I would have wanted to do it, but that's because that's what the marketing told me to do it, right? Someone told him because he didn't know, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like it's even though those people are the front head, they're the people that everyone's like, oh, Gary Vee, oh, you're the
Gary Vee is a
top,
great example, though. But the thing that, and I think that, and we're still going to be talking about Gary Vee in 10 years, is that
Yep.
he's got a level of authenticity that, and I think that's why he rose to where he is right now because he's so authentic. He's got a crazy personality, a lot of energy. He throws a lot of f bomb. I mean, that's just who he is. But at least he is who he is. I mean, I do honestly feel like the guy that you see on the lives and everything, that he's the same guy even when the camera's
Yep.
off. I don't think I can say the same about Tony Robbins, or maybe he is a little bit. I mean, I don't think he's inauthentic,
No.
but he's still, it's just like in that, like him and
He's
that.
not rah clapping his hands when you see him in the elevator.
No.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the difference is that like with the people like Gary Vee and like those real true entrepreneurs, because like Gary Vee was never above buying on Facebook, for $20 and turning it into $100. And
Right.
that's what he said. That's how I started. He goes, like, it's not like nothing is beneath me. I could leave this today and I can start it all over again tomorrow because I know how to do it. Had
Right.
nothing to do with where and who I'm around now. That's irrelevant. What I've learned along the way is what's made me successful. The entrepreneurial spirit and the ability to want to do what everybody else didn't want to do is what made him him, right? And that's
Exactly.
the authenticity behind that character that he's trying to show people like, look, you can do it. Everyone's trying to look for the shortcut, the way that's going to, oh, I can just buy a course and I can make $1 million. No, it doesn't work that way. It's not that short, but it can be shorter if you have the skills and you have the knowledge. And that's the problem that people are missing from all of this stuff is they're not learning from what it is that they're learning, what's being presented to them, right? Like they're not actually learning the material. They're just, how do I make money? Oh, okay, I'll take this and sell it. No,
Yeah.
it's not how it works. Like there's more to it than that.
Yeah. I do think it's a lot of it's mindset, which I don't, as we're finding out organically, even in this community, that people are, I, we need to be talking about that more. There's a need for that even in our community, and so I'm glad to do that. I think this is a great place to get comfortable with the mindset that you need to do in here. It's a very supportive group. We talk about it openly. We don't
Yep.
try to pretend. There's no egos. I'm a big proponent. There's no egos in this fight, you know, and we talk about it openly.
Yep.
And I think that's helped. I think that's a great strength of the community that I didn't necessarily. I mean, I guess I did because I've run masterminds before, you've heard me say at the beginning. And all it took was that one person to kind of show what's behind the kimono with bravery, and then you're off to the races. And we've seen it a couple times, even in some of our live sessions where people have opened up, and it's amazing to watch people like ants to sugar just and just pour love into this
Yeah.
person and saying,
Yep.
dude, you got it. I mean, I'm the same way. That's almost happened on every mastermind session if you think about it. Almost everyone.
Yep.
Um, I don't know. I feel extremely blessed, to have guys like you and the other people that are in here that are very active, and it just feels like. And I don't know if you've experienced this in your life, but there have been certain. I can think of seminal moments in my life where I just knew something was going to happen, but I didn't know how it was going to get there. And I do feel like with this, in terms of there's going to be a lot of lives impacted in a positive way. I don't know how it's going to happen. I just know it's going to happen, if that makes sense. And that's really kind of the fuel that keeps me going because I'm still plagued. on a day-to-day basis. Like, okay, why isn't this happening? Like, it never does, by the way. I don't know why I'm shocked, because everything I've done has never turned out like I initially planned. I don't know why I'm kidding myself thinking, okay, I'm going to do this and this is going to happen, because it never happens that way
Yeah.
ever. It's never happened that way for me. So why am I stressing about it now? And the older I get, the less I do stress about those things. I recognize them when I'm in it, but it's an hour by hour kind of struggle for me sometimes. It's like, what do I do? And it is some intentionality of kind of going, oh, come on, everything's working out. It's doing what you're supposed to do, you know. And but
I think the hardest thing has been the challenge that everyone in the community, once we started trying to develop this idea of the AI Ninja Mastermind, was how do we do it where everyone felt happy? Because we have so many people that wanted to just give it away. And there's a lot of people who have a lot more business backgrounds that were like, we need to charge $1 million for the access
right,
to really, like, if you think about it, like, not really like that, but like the skills that we have, it's not worth, like where we started, like our first product that we launched, the 127 a month, like you're getting a lot of value to a lot of access to a lot of people for 127 a month. Like I've paid 150 to $200 an hour to ask a guy, how do I set up my stand store? Like, you know what I mean? And we're talking about you've got 30 days at 127 to ask 30 different questions. Even if you got one question a day asked, you know what I mean? Like,
you're it's yeah, it's crazy
and
when you
that's where
think
people have
about
been struggling, right? Where we're like, how do we do it? Like the economy is terrible. People are struggling. They're looking for an olive branch. And we're like, let's give them this olive branch at least, right? But we know the value is 10 times what we're offering it at. But I think people are like, it seems like a scam at 127 for
it.
all that.
Yeah,
It seems too good to be true. Like, like the legendary $7, that's a great deal. And then you find out what the blueprints cost at the end, right? Like,
yeah,
and then that's what people are waiting for. Where does the floor drop? And then,
right.
ta-da! If you want the secrets, it's $10,000. And we're like, there is no 10,000. And they're like, what? No, it's got to be something in there that's not right.
Yeah. We're the victim of kind of the bad apples before us, maybe. I think that
Yeah,
might be some of it, but you're right. I mean, it's like, or is it like, well, it's too, or people saying, is that too much? Or like, what is, again, it's hard to articulate the intangibles that even some of us didn't realize we would experience until we started doing it, right? I think
yeah.
that's part of it. Like, well, how do I tell people that we just helped this guy see the light? And how do you put that in a marketing blurb in a stupid TikTok video where people get
Yeah.
it? You know, it's like, it's hard. And it's like, and then maybe, the pot, this, it, people stick around and hear us talking, maybe they'll get it, and they'll want to learn more, because it is a longer game. And I think, and you're right. I mean, the economy is insane. And particularly, I think it's worse in Canada in terms of like how far your dollar goes compared to even down here. But God dang, it's just, I mean, compared to even 4 years ago, I mean, I think the average down here is you have to be making 12 to $15,000 more now than you did 4 years ago to have that same level of lifestyle that you did 4 years ago. That's insane.
And I mean, and we don't have the crutches that you guys have. Like we have like free, like we call it free healthcare, right? Like I've had enough surgeries in the last, like this year and in the past, that would have bankrupted probably most of you guys, right? Like
Right.
just the hospital cost alone, right? Where for me it's buried in my taxes. I never even saw it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the difference is for us, it's the cost of living has just gotten so astronomical. Is the, buying food, paying for the properties have gone up because people are coming from outside of the world who have more money, like coming from richer countries like China and whatnot, and then they're coming in and they're buying up everything because it's so cheap right now. And you know what I mean? Everybody else is like, how do I compete with that? They've got millions, and I'm just trying to put my shingle up on a house so I can have my family in it, right? And get out of this two-bedroom apartment, right? And I can't because I still don't make enough money, or I'm struggling, right? And living paycheck to paycheck. And that's the struggle that we have in the economy everywhere. I don't care if it's Canada, it's the US, like Europe, it's everywhere, right? Like
Everywhere.
the people who have the money are buying up the stuff that the average Joe can't afford to buy right now.
Yeah, the Black Rocks. And you're right. In
Yeah,
China, buying farmland both in Canada and
yeah,
here, and
exactly.
it's just insane. And because that farmer is seeing an opportunity, can't blame the farmer.
Nope.
He's
Well,
like,
and his
man,
kids don't want to do the farming.
yeah, because I can't afford a $1.2 million combine. I don't want to put a lease payment on
Nope.
that. And
No, but
uh,
even just paying the property taxes on that land
exactly.
that he can't farm anymore because he's retired, he can't, like, it doesn't make any sense. Why do I have 400 acres that I can't pay the property tax on anymore? Like I always go back to like that show, The Yellowstone, right?
Hmm.
It costs them, what is it, $1 million a year to run that farm, like they said in the show or something,
Right.
right? That means you got to make over $1 million just to break even. That's not even paying for the extras. You know what I mean? That's just to
Yeah.
break even on your costs, right? So, I mean, the average farmer whose kids are like, sorry, dad, I don't want to do the dairy farm, or I don't want to do the beef, you know what I mean? Or I don't want to do whatever the crop is
Hmm.
of the year. Like, what are they going to do with it? But sell it. But you're not going to sell it to me.
No, because I
I
can't
don't have
afford
the
it.
equity to buy $2
Yeah.
million for 400 acres. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Minto or like the big property development guys are coming in here, putting up, you know, 10,000 houses or whatever are going to come in there and buy it for that price.
Yeah. It's enough to drive you mad. And so all the more important, I think, because if I didn't have this, and I'll be honest with you, if I didn't have you guys in the community, I would go down those rabbit holes and go insane. Now I got a sense of optimism of like, okay, even if everything does go to hell in a handbasket, I do feel like I've got a skill set, I've got a community I can rely on. If anything, let's say whatever ideas I have, let's say AI Ninja fell apart tomorrow. Well, I've got 125 people that okay, let's rally the troops. Okay, Rome is burning.
Yep.
That means there's opportunity. Jason, Rob, Alan, what
Yep.
can the three of us do, or five of us, or 10 of us? What can we do to capitalize on this and help people and also make sure that our families are fed? That's how I
Yep.
feel. And I don't think that's crazy either, right?
Yep.
I
I
mean,
think
I
the problem
honestly,
is that what people see from the outside is they're used to the greed.
yeah,
And the thing that has been so different within the community is so many have said we're done with the greed. But yes, we need to feed our families. We need to have something
that's a
on the
given.
table.
That's
You
a
know what I mean? We
given,
need a roof
right?
over our head,
Mhm.
clothes on our back, foods in our bellies. But at the end of the day, I don't need to rob somebody else in order to do that. I can still do it in a good, conscionable method and still manage to still meet my needs and help that person or that group or that family out who's struggling, right? To give them another skill because that working at that, entry level, bottom minimum wage job is just not enough for them, right? And they need another skill, but they can't afford to go back to university or college to do it because there's nobody to support them while they do that, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
either you go in hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt to go and get student loans and you do it, and then you come out and you still might not have a job and you're now 200 grand in the hole, right? So
right.
like this is the thing that we've been trying to get people to understand is that it's never been cheaper to get in and
Never.
start a
I,
business and easier. Like the levels and the barriers are so much
so
lower
low.
than 20 years ago or 25 years ago when I first started trying to figure out how
Uh-huh.
does ClickFunnels do a website for me to do a drop shipping. Now you can do it in a matter of with AI in a matter of no time. And they even have like ClickFunnels has their own AI, and all these other ones have their own AI to help you. Like Wix can make you a website AI based within an hour, right?
Hmm.
Like that's different than it's ever been.
Ever
That's the
been.
difference that people are not seeing is that things have changed so dramatically over the last 20 years that it's not you had to go and find a spot in the mall that's got good traffic and you're on a corner and everyone's driving by you and trying to do
Yeah,
all that kind of
right,
research. Now you're trying to figure out how do you get people to see you on the internet? That's your corner now, right? How do
right.
I drive traffic to that corner?
Well,
You
and I just thought of this as you were saying this, that yeah, even because I remember I was with you, it's kind of like, God, this is tech. And again, I'm not afraid of technology. I'm not afraid of programming. I'm not afraid of building a website. I taught myself how to build websites. I know how to do it. But going through that, I can understand why most people didn't do it.
yeah,
And so that was always the advantage that the hustle, and I think that's where you get the hustle and grind mentality,
Yeah.
which I'm so sick of and tired of because most of it's fake. But I get up at 4 and I learn how to create. Well, okay, okay, whatever, shut up.
Yeah.
But to your point, yes, all that stuff that was technically and tactically challenging, all that's been collapsed. The tools are so wide and varied, and it's so easy to stuff that was so hard even 5 years ago, 10 years ago is so easy now. So let's don't let that be the barrier to entry because all that's gone. Creating a website, writing web copy, getting a domain name, all it's cheap. It doesn't, to get a domain, 20, maybe it's a lot more. I mean, still, it's cheap. It's
Yeah.
the cost isn't,
Hosting is not as expensive as it used to be.
editing
All that
content,
kind of stuff.
editing videos, creating videos and editing videos and posting it. It's so simple now. Anybody can do it. And where 10 years ago, oh, you got to be Adobe Premiere, you got to have this and you got to do that. And it's all
Yeah.
hard. You got to make the sound. Come on. But what's most important to me, though, I think that in addition to that, that I think the opportunity, and we've been alluding to it all in here, is that type of marketing that you needed to be successful back then when ClickFunnels was saying we can set up a drop shipping website. All that is gone too. What the advantage now, and you see it on TikTok, where the Megs of the world, the people who really kind of knocked it out of the park, weren't doing the slick editing and marketing and the graphics.
Yeah.
How many people did I see successful even on the digital marketing space where like the kids crying in the background? I'm like, I got no makeup on yet, and the husband's walking around in his boxers and his t-shirt, getting in the fridge, and that would have been unheard of 5, 10 years ago. And now
Yeah.
it's like, and then you see things like Oprah and The Rock getting excoriated trying to do a fundraiser for Maui, GoFundMe, and everyone's like, F off, and like,
Yeah.
and the same thing with like J Lo trying to like, here's my slick, new movie and
Yep.
documentary and everything. I was like, I don't care,
Yeah.
because, and the people that are doing it are kind of these like, everyday Joes. And
Well, that
like,
whole Met thing there, when that blew up, right? Like people, that was the straw, I think, that really broke a lot of people's back was that
which
Met
one?
Gala.
Oh,
The
the
Met
Met
Gala,
Gala. Yeah. It's like
when the
you
girl said, let them eat cake,
let
like
them go
Mary
eat cake,
Antoinette, right?
right?
That's the
Exactly.
disconnect that the people who are in the upper echelon are just not seeing the average everyday Joe. And I think people are like, yeah, I'm done supporting that. I don't want to pay to keep, pumping up the people who are keeping us, I don't want to say keeping us down, but they're keeping that disconnect between what's reality and what's, the entertainment, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like Kim Kardashian getting booed at the Tom Brady Tom Brady roast, I mean, I
Yeah.
think people are tired. I mean, I suppose there's still a certain element, there always will be, of people that are attracted to um the high level influencers and the celebrities and this and that. And there's always,
Well, it's
but I
fascinating, right? Just like looking at the royal family, it's still fascinating. It's like watching, Jerry Springer, but in the royal family, right?
right,
Like
right,
everyone is fascinated by looking at the train wreck, but you don't want to be in it, but you want to watch it, right?
right.
Like that's the reality of life, right? I think everyone gets so caught up, even with business, right? I'd rather see and bitch about my friend who is trying to do something different than do it myself. I would rather put them down for trying than me ever trying myself, right? And I think
Yeah,
that's the reality that's always been the challenge for us entrepreneurs is that the people who will support you the most are not your friends and your family. They're an absolute stranger who's in Kansas right now, who's in a different time zone than I am, who's pumping me up more than my own family, going, yeah, you can do it. Right. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the sad thing about where we are in society today is
yeah,
that realistically, the people who are in your corner are not the people that are paying your bills. They're not the ones who are struggling in life with you. They're just there to go, yeah, you got it, man. Figure it out. Like, here, I can give you a hand. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's what people are missing today. They're looking for that and they're lost. They're just looking for somebody who can say,
100%.
you
Yeah,
know, yeah, you can do it. You are better. You are something. You are able to do something that is better than where you're at. You're not going to be the Walmart greeter forever or the, McDonald's cashier or whatever it is. And if you are and you love it, then great. But here's how you can also make more money while doing that. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so
yeah.
much stuff to do.
That is kind of, I mean, hearing you say that, I mean, I don't know, that really resonated when you're saying it. It does, on one hand, it makes me sad. At the other end of it, it makes me, it makes me optimistic that we're onto something special. You're right. And I mean, even if I think back to why I created this community, it was out of a necessity and need because psychologically I felt all alone. And even I couldn't even reach out to my closest friends or even the family. They didn't understand what I'm doing and what I felt.
No.
And I think that's the story of entrepreneurship in general. I think a lot of times people who get that gnawing, call it a calling if you want, or whatever, that feeling that you have, it's when you when you sign up for the okay, if you and I think most people don't listen to those nudgings or those gnawings. I call them gnawings. I'm hesitant to call them callings. I don't, I wish I could have the burning bush tell me what I need to do. I never had it. I pray for, the angel to come visit me in the middle of the night and tell me what I'm supposed to do. It never happens. I just have weird, bizarre dreams that make no sense. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, have
And
you not ever had you wake up one day and you see an ad on TV and you're like, I said that 20 years ago that we
yeah,
needed to have this thing, but I would never know how to invent it, right?
right.
Just like you have this idea and you're like, this would make my life so friggin' easy if I had a converter that would make me not have to get up to change a channel for my parents every time, back in the day when we had to click
Yeah,
you know, like, and then they invented it. The wife always says, like, something for a women product will come up, and she's like, me and my sister, we thought about that 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
We kept
Yeah,
saying somebody needs to invent something like this. I'm like, but you didn't, right?
yeah.
Because you talk yourself out of it because you're like, what do I know? I don't know patent engineers and I don't know, a manufacturing company and I don't know how to sew or I don't know how to build stuff, right? Like the
Mhm.
barriers are there, like when it comes to those kind of concrete goods, right? And that will never change.
And that's you're right. And that's what's exciting about what we're trying to show people is that you don't, and I had that, I don't know if you heard me say that, but that mentor that I had in entrepreneurship back in 2002, and I worked for his hotel company, and I was the VP of brand communication for him. And he was Jack DeBoer, and he's the guy that started Residence Inn. He
Yeah, I
sold it to
remember you telling me
Marriott.
that story. Yeah.
And we were talking about this very thing in entrepreneurship. He said, the thing that people miss, and he's well known here in town. He's since passed away, but there were a couple old entrepreneurs here. The guy that started Rent a Center, I don't know if you heard of Rent a Center up there in
Yep.
Canada, but he's from here. The guys that invented Pizza Hut, the Carney brothers, they invented Pizza Hut here in this town. The original Pizza
Right.
Hut on the college I went to, and so you had these like, and then Jack DeBoer, who sold, he was a big apartment developer when he created Residence Inn and sold it to Marriott. And, he's the guy that made it all, lost it all, made it again. He's just, and he was telling me at lunch at Popeye's Chicken there, and he was just like, the funny thing about entrepreneurship, he said, and these entrepreneurs, they think they got to invent something
Yep.
that's never been done before. He goes, I'm not an inventor. Let those innovators go do. He goes, all I do, I just listen to the people in the time. Like he was in the apartment. How he got the idea for Residence Inn is he was listening to people in the apartment industry and these traveling people coming into town, staying at hotels.
Yep.
And they knew in the circles in, and Jack was an apartment developer. He's like, God, can I just stay? I'm so tired of staying in these stupid ass hotels or Holiday Inn. He goes, if I could just stay in an apartment, can I rent one of your apartments for like, he's like, he kept getting that request,
Yeah.
he's like, I just want to stay in an apartment. And he's like, well, what if I created a hotel that ran like an apartment,
Yep.
where they could come in? It feels like an apartment, feels like a little, you
You
know,
got your kitchenette, you got your bed, you got your TV, it doesn't feel like you're in a hotel where you're being rushed out all the time.
right. And then so he's like, so I just listened to what they said and I turned this property into, it was actually an apartment complex, and he turned it into the Residence Inn. And
Yep.
he goes, "Yep, pay by the night." And and it seems like
Yep.
when you hear it, you're like, well, yeah, why not? But
Yep.
he was the one that did it. And he said, I didn't come up with the idea.
Nope.
I listened to the people who I knew and these business travelers. And then the same thing, he's the guy that invented the continental breakfast that you see in every Hampton Inn and
Oh,
Holiday
okay.
Inn, because the people that started, it's like, I love this concept. And he had, like a 90% occupancy rate for 2 years running, which is insane,
Yep.
90% occupancy rate. And he was like, wow, I'm onto something. And they were like, God, it'd be great if I could just, I hate
Have a
going to
little
the den.
breakfast before I leave.
Yeah. And I don't got time to go to the Denny's and, spend
Yeah,
45 minutes to get a full breakfast. I just need some cereal, some yogurt, a
yeah.
banana, and maybe
Couple
some
boiled
scrambled
eggs,
eggs.
and off we
Yeah.
go.
And so he's like, all right, can I put a place in the lobby where I can,
Yeah,
how hard is it to get catered? And so he spent a little money for the cafe across the street. He said, can I get like a big container of eggs? I'll buy it off of you and pay. He's, oh yeah, sure. Give me a thing of bacons and sausages and some scrambled eggs. And next thing you know, I mean, and it wasn't really costing him that much money. And he just raised his rates a little bit and
yeah,
people were as happy as shit. They were just
yeah.
spending 10 minutes grabbing some scrambled eggs and a juice. And so that resonated with me that I think that's the key to where it takes that burden off of you of trying to come up with this unique product and try to get capital funding from Damon Johns on Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Leave that to them. We're focused on, okay, I'm passionate about this niche. Let's solve these problems. That's
But like what you just said in your example of Mr. Boer or whatever, is that as an entrepreneur, he listened to
listen.
the problem that's going on, right? What are people looking for? What are they asking about? And like that's the hard part is figuring out that you have to open up your mind to not think what you think. It's what are people asking for, right? He
Exactly.
thought people wanted apartments. That's what he did. He made apartments. He didn't think people wanted to stay in a you know what I mean? Like he
Yeah.
did a hotel developer, right? That's what
Mhm.
you said, I think. He
Yeah.
wasn't a residence developer,
He was an apartment. He was the second biggest apartment developer from like the late
right?
'60s into the mid '70s, and in the mid '70s, he was hearing this feedback of people wanting, God, if I could just stay in some of your apartments instead of this stupid
Yeah,
Holiday Inn, you know?
no different than the Airbnb idea. You take that people
Exactly.
want to stay in something comfortable that doesn't feel like a hotel, or just like you said, an apartment developer. That's what he developed was apartments, not a rental hotel idea.
No,
He merged it because somebody came up with it and said and kept asking,
yeah,
right?
he
And the
didn't come up with it.
entrepreneurial brain said,
Yeah,
maybe I can do that.
yeah.
I'm
He,
not reinventing the wheel. I'm just doing what I'm already good at and shoveling people towards it, right? Like, here
and
you go. You wanted it, and here it is, right?
that's what he said. He goes, everybody thinks I'm so smart, and he goes, I just listened to what they were complaining about,
Yep. And that's what
and
we
then
talk about in here, right?
mhm,
Identify what your avatars are asking for. Identify what your target market, what they're looking for. But that's what takes time. And that's where we're saying you can
now
speed
you
up
can do
that
it.
process
Yeah,
so much faster now
in an
than before,
hour.
where you're having to go to get like all these, like what's
Ask the public, answer the public,
ask the
like whatever
public, yeah,
public
all that
section
stuff, and
and
trying to
all that
figure out
stuff.
what are people looking for, what are they asking for, right? Like, and that's what and then you're trying to make a niche off of that. Like, it could take you forever to do that.
Yeah. Man, I've loved this conversation. I could talk to you for hours, dude. This is just
Yeah.
amazing, and I knew it'd be good. What is the dream for you as we kind of wrap this up? What is the dream for your business? Where are you hoping to be in 6 months to a year?
Um, I don't know if it'll be 6 months to a year, but I'm hoping to keep doing this and maybe transition out of my 9 to 5, right? Like,
Hmm.
I've got a city job and it's pay and pension and all that stuff. And it's the catch 22, right? It's hard to walk away from that kind of money, kind of like you with the airlines, right? Where you're like,
Hmm.
how am I ever going to make 100 G's somewhere else, right? Like,
Yeah.
but I think the thing that I'm lacking the most of is that's not fulfilling from that job is the helping. And I think that's where I want to kind of remember you were saying about the filling of the buckets. I think that's where I need to be is getting the buckets filled where I feel content that I made somebody else's journey or help them out, right? Like that's where I get the most from. And if I make a little extra from it, then so be it, right? I think that's where I see myself, I think, in the next 6 months to a year is just keep doing what I'm doing, keep learning and expanding what I've learned already, and just trying to hone it in to be even more knowledgeable than I was 6 months ago, right? Like
Yeah.
I think that's where I want to be, right? Like we all have so many years of experience in different aspects, and I'm just trying to bring it in and make it all make sense. And like I've got a couple other ideas rattling around in my brain that,
That's
especially
good.
because of what's been going on with that whole Gen X movement, and I've got
Yeah.
something that's going on where I'm like, I've got to tap into it, and
I
I'm
think
like,
you're
I've got to
right.
pick Ray's brain on how I
Yeah.
can do it and try to make these two worlds kind of meet. You know what I mean?
I
So
agree with that. I've been thinking about that about you, and I think there's something there for you in that. I think you
yeah,
can be the face of that, or at least a little sub community
Yeah, or at
around
least like a voice in it,
a
right?
voice
So
of it. Yeah,
yeah.
I like it.
So I'm like, there's some things like that that I'm like, it's rattling around in my brain. I just haven't figured out how to barf it out yet to GPT to kind of get it to really
Yeah,
start spitting me some knowledge so I can start really interacting with it, right? So
yeah. I've
that's
got.
what I think where I'm at now, right? Where it's
Yeah,
my brain is just always expanding and it's always growing
I
and I
love
think
it.
that's, the next 6 months to a year, I think it is just going to be,
See where it goes. I
yeah.
think. I think. Yeah, I love it, and I think I'm excited for you. I think I need to take my own advice. Sometimes, you know, it's trying to realize that you're in the stream, and we are in the stream, and it's taking us somewhere. We don't know exactly where.
Yeah.
So just enjoy let the stream take you, and don't try to swim upstream. Don't even try to swim cross stream because you're going to meet resistance. Just go with it, and if anything, swim with it, and you'll get there faster. And so I try to remind myself that every day, and I think that's what you're kind of do, and I would just
Well, I
remind
think
you to do
before
that.
I was forcing it.
Yeah,
Like with the roadmap, I was trying to force it to be like Meg. I was forcing myself
yeah,
to try to be their path.
which is
And I wasn't
understandable.
letting my own path identify itself, right? I was just trying to be in the wealth niche,
Yeah,
just buying a course to sell a course. And that's where I was going to be. And I was going to be the next 10,000 a week guy. But that's not like I was, the more you chase something or you force something, the further it pushes away
there's
from
your
you,
way.
right?
You
So,
got to attract it to you, and I think you're
yeah.
right. And you're so much rich, and that's the beautiful thing is that you're so much more richer in terms of than that guy that you just described. There's so
Yeah.
much more there than that guy you were trying to force it to be. So much more. I can see it, and I'm excited to see.
Well, I think we're all in that boat, right? We
Yeah,
all want to
exactly,
be
100%.
comfortable, right? I don't want to have to worry about my mortgage. I don't want to have to worry
Mm-hmm.
about my 10-year-old university or college or whatever she decides to do, or that she's going to have a meal tomorrow. We all want to be in that spot where we
The
don't have to
given.
worry about anything, right?
That's the
So I
given,
mean, that's
right?
the
Mm-hmm.
that's the reality. But when you say I want to make 10,000 a week, like everyone's like, "Oh, you're being greedy. I don't need 10 grand to live. I could live off of 1,000 a week." Yeah, of course we could. But that's, not what I was looking at. I'm looking at, I want something that's stable for everybody, right? I'm not
Yeah,
ever going to have to worry. My wife could quit her job tomorrow if I wanted to.
yeah.
But
That's
again,
a
that's what we were sold on, right? And then when you actually start doing, you're like, I don't like the way that that sounds now. Like I want to be taken care of and my family's taken care of, but I don't want to be what they were doing. You know what I mean? Like that's the hard thing. Like you try to like, how do I articulate that to somebody to understand that yes, I want to have a comfortable living, but I don't want to be a sleazy car
yeah.
salesman to do
I don't
it,
want to be. I don't care about fancy cars, fancy mansions. I don't care about any
No.
of that. I mean, I mean, my goal, and I'll put it out there, and I put it out there in the universe. I mean, I'd love to, if I can make 50 grand a month at some point, and I think, and I know I have the capability to do it, and so do you. And it's
But
not unreasonable.
we're getting closer to our retirement. And I look at my pension, as much as I've put in for my job and what I'm going to get from it, I'm not going to be able to do the things that I still want to do. Like I want to, but the sad part is we waste our whole lives
Yeah,
giving
it
up
is
40
sad.
years of our lives to then go, oh, maybe in my last 20 years of life, I can go and travel the world. And then you're like, but I can't afford it. I'm broke. I
and
have
you
to
and
downsize everything.
yeah, and I mean, I noticed that even when you've heard me say that story when I was flying 787s international, and I'm 55, I'm going on 56, but okay, so I'm 53, 54, sitting across from guys that are 60. They're 6 years older than me, or
Yeah.
62, 63. Maybe they're 9 years older than me, and they look. If we were standing side by side, I'm like, these guys look like hell,
Yeah.
and they're not happy, and they're talking about, oh God, just so close, and all they're talking about is the airlines. They're talking about the union. They're talking about how much their 401k is, and
Yeah.
some are better than others. Some
And then
gone
they
through
get out and retire 2 years out and they die.
they die. And I would see that dude, I would hear that all the time. And me like, yeah, just guy flew with great guy. He just retired 18 months ago and he's
Yeah.
dead. I'm like,
Yep. It's a bus driver syndrome too. Same thing. Like they got nothing else to do. They've only fought to get through to the end of the retirement. And they never thought about what am I going to do when I retire? What are
mhm.
my hobbies? What are my interests? They never cultivated anything. They just spent 10, 12 hours a day working and rinse, repeat for 40 years. And then they got to the end and they're like, I made it. but I've busted up my body. I'm exhausted. I have stressed out. I have no hobbies, no skills. I'm bored. What do I do now? And they just sit there and rot, right? For
Yeah.
18 to 24 months and heart attacks, strokes. Like it's just, it's sad. And that's the real, you know what I mean? But then they look at their pension. They're like, I fought 40 years to get this. I thought this was going to be what I saw my parents retire, where they were traveling, and the cost of living is so high now. That little stipend that you get from your pension doesn't do much like it
Yeah.
used to, you know?
But the reality is, we're so tantalizingly close. And I say this, I mean, because I know people. I know a guy here in town. He makes 60 grand a month, and he's a team of one. And
Yep.
all he has 440 people in a community, 440 people in his community, and he's charging 147 a month. What
Yep.
if he can do it? Why can't we? Is
Well,
my
I told you about that guy that Ron, that mentor I hired, like that I hired for a bit from the roadmap. He's like, he looks up to this one guy who's got this 1,000 person community. They all pay him 120 bucks a month. He's making 1.2 million a month. That's it. He doesn't do anything else. He's not on social media. He's not on this. He's not on that. He found his community and then he stopped. He
yeah.
just focuses on them now.
You don't have to
That's
do
it.
anything else,
No.
and
He's like,
he's
that's
enjoying it.
it.
I mean, and he's taking care of 1,000 people. That's it.
Yeah.
And out of
No,
that
and that's
thousand
what I mean.
people,
That's what people can't see, that it can be that. I mean,
exactly.
did it happen overnight? No. Was
No,
it
but
easy? No. But it happened eventually. And then he pulled back. He wasn't like, I need to get 2,000 and I need to be making 2.2. Like
yeah,
he's like, no, I'm good. I'm more than taken care of. I'm making 1.2 a month.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, yeah. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I want to enjoy the last quarter. I'm entering the fourth quarter of my life. I want to make this fourth quarter
or no, I guess it's 120 a month. Sorry, I think there's 1.2 a year. I guess he's making, but he's
1.2
only
a
having,
year.
yeah,
Yeah, but
whatever it is.
still,
But
I
yeah,
mean,
still like, yeah, wow, 120 a year. That's so hard to live off of.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, that's like the same thing. I mean, like this guy is making, 64 grand a month. That's a little less than a million. I
Yeah.
mean, but good Lord. I mean, I'd be fine making
Yeah.
$500,000 with an overhead of less than $1,000 a month expenses. Come on. And I have no inventory. I have no,
Yeah, but even if you had to make 100 grand a year, and that's only translating to a couple of thousand, like 10,000 a month. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like it's achievable. Like it doesn't, like that's the thing that people are not seeing, is that you can do it. It's going to take work. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be working 2 hours a day that's going to maybe get you
exactly.
there, potentially. In
That's
my,
why that's why I think, you find a niche that works for you instead of just a generic health, wealth, and relationship niche that you don't give a shit about. And it's like,
yeah,
find something that you're passionate about, and then go find those 200 people to pay you 47 bucks a month. Well, then you're at 120 grand a year, basically.
yeah,
That doesn't get you very far in 2024,
no,
but I guarantee it's probably more than what most people in the United States are making on an average annual
yeah.
basis. And that's a start. And if you can get
But you're
200,
working for you. You're
you're
not
working for
working
you.
for somebody
That's
else.
right. And you
It's
could
your
do that.
120,000 a year, not somebody
Yours.
else's.
That's right. And you could do that and still work a 9 to 5 is my argument. You could
Yeah,
still do that. And now what if you got 400 people? Now you're making what I was making as an airline pilot with just 400 people at 47 bucks a month. What if you charge 97 bucks a month? It's all different. It's all math.
yeah,
Do play around with the math and you can see the potential. And I know too many people that are doing it, people you never even heard of, people that aren't on social
yeah,
media, they're not influencers, they got their nose to the grindstone, they got their own little quiet little community, they're serving
yeah.
them, and that's what I'm
But they're
pushing.
bringing value. It's right.
They're
It's trying
bringing
to
value.
figure out, how do you bring value to a community? And that's the skill you need to learn, right? What can you bring and what can you develop that's going to attract people to want to buy your product or your service or your community, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to show people, is that anybody can do it. You just need to learn to leverage that power to get it there faster.
Well, I'm excited about it, and I'm glad you're part of the community. Yeah, we've been talking a good. We could, like I said, we could keep talking
It's
forever.
going to be the longest YouTube video ever.
No, but it's all good. Hey, Joe Rogan does 3 hour podcasts, so there's no reason
Yeah,
why we
true,
can't do hour
true.
and a half ones, right? So there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with
This is like
that.
when we do the live, we end up talking for a lot longer on the live.
I know, right? Well, I appreciate this conversation, and it certainly met my expectations and value. I hope some other people got some value. How can people find out more about you, your business? How can they reach out to you?
Well, they can reach out to my website, jljourneytosuccess.com. You can catch me if you become a member in the AI Ninja Mastermind group. You can find my link in there as well. And I'm on social media too for
What's your
TikTok.
TikTok handle? What's your TikTok handle?
I think it's JL Journey to Success or Jason L, something like that. So
I'll have links to all that in the show notes, so make sure you check them out. And again, Jason, I'm so happy to have you in the community. I consider you a friend, and I look forward to doing life with you for the rest of my life. And so I'm
yep,
excited to see where this takes us.
it's great. Had a great
Thanks for
time.
thanks for coming on the show. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the AI Ninja podcast. I hope you found today's conversation with Jason as inspiring, as informative as I did. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, again, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform and share it with your network. Don't forget to subscribe to us. Never miss an episode for more insights and resources. Go to aininja.pro and you can learn more about joining our mastermind, joining my AI Ninja Bootcamp, where I can take you from idea to an online presence ready to sell to the world just in 6 weeks. And so until next time, stay curious and keep innovating. See you in the next episode.